America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And with that, we have minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the April 11th regular meeting minutes.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? See none.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the April 11th non-public meeting minutes.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, on to announcements. The Select Board will meet in a non-public work session for negotiations discussion on Monday, May 2nd at 4 p.m. and then again on Monday, May 23rd at 3 p.m. All regular meetings will begin at 5 p.m. The Select Board will meet on the following dates: Monday, May 9th and May 23rd. If a work session is needed, it'll now be included with the regular meeting. All meetings will be held upstairs right here in Town Hall and will also be available by Zoom. Zoom information can be found on the town's website at plymouth-nh.org. Any citizens wishing to be listed on the Select Board's agenda should notify Town Hall before noon the Friday before the scheduled meeting. And with that, let's go all the way to appointments. Our first appointment is Andy McDonald, who is seeking reappointment to the Parks and Recreation Commission. I'll read his quick letter here. Dear Select Board members, I'm writing to apply for reappointment to the Parks and Recreation Board. I've served as a commissioner for a number of years and have enjoyed my time on the board tremendously. In closing, I hope to get a chance to continue serving the Plymouth community, and thank you for your consideration. Sincerely, Andy McDonald.
I'd like to make a motion to approve Andy McDonald for reappointment to the Parks and Rec Commission.
I'll second that. Oop. Go for it.
Neil got
I'll
it.
second it, yeah.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Let's see. Let's say the 25th.
Yes.
And next up is Bryan Dutille, also looking for a reappointment.
I move that we reappoint Bryan Dutille to the Parks and
Oh, we're
Recreation.
going to read him?
Oh, you want to read his letter? Excuse me.
I will actually shortcut the reading of the letter. It appears that both Bryan and Andy used the exact same letter.
Right.
So in all places where I said Andy, replace that with Bryan, and it's the exact same letter.
I move that we reappoint Bryan Dutille to the
second.
Parks and Rec Commission.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I ayed as well in my brain. Any opposed? And we've got another one, which is Eleni Panagoulis, also Parks and Rec.
Yep.
Yep.
Didn't use the same form.
Didn't use the same form letter, so I'll read hers real quickly. Dear Plymouth Board of Selectmen, I am writing this letter as I understand my position serving the Plymouth Parks and Rec Commission is up for renewal. I've served on the Plymouth Parks and Recreation Board as the board chair since 2014, and I intend and look forward to continuing my service on this committee. Please let me know if you need any further information or have any questions. Sincerely, Eleni Panagoulis.
I'll make a motion that we approve Eleni Panagoulis for reappointment to the Plymouth Parks and Recreation Commission.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Right. And this is apparently appointment day for us. We also have appointment letters. Last time we met, we talked about the Americans with Disabilities Act Compliance Committee was the thing we had on the agenda last time. Now we have some appointments in front of us to establish that committee.
I would ask that the board make a motion to approve these 3 members to be appointed to that committee. 2 of us do not live in Plymouth, as indicated, so if we could just put all 3 names together, and we'll just use your vote here today instead of an appointment sheet for that.
Okay. So we're not gonna sign the,
The appointment, we'll just use the minutes for that.
okay, because of the,
Locations.
Yep. that is fair. So looking for that motion.
So we're not looking to appoint, we're just looking to,
These are actually, the 3 of us are employees of the town.
Right.
And we're basically, you've established the committee and that you're just going to appoint us to the committee. We are not from Plymouth,
sure.
so it's a little different.
It's not like an official town committee, it's
Right.
more like a
It's a-
work employment
It's an
committee.
employment committee, yeah.
So I make a motion to appoint,
3 members.
yeah, the 3 members, Randy Bear, Scott Weden, and Joe Perez, to become members of the Americans with Disability Act Compliance Committee of Plymouth.
I'll second.
Any discussion around that? And is there any requirement for that to be a town committee? Is it fine as like a like town employment
More
thing?
comes from, it's a employee of the town who needs to be listed as the overall contact for this. So
Okay.
it doesn't have, I don't have to live in town. You can put other people on the committee if you want to, but that's where
Someone,
it starts.
someone from the community volunteers, I'm sure we would not say no.
Right.
It makes sense. This is mostly so that we're in better compliance for grants and federal funding and any of those kinds of things.
And the state has looked at the program that we have, and they're happy with it, so that's good.
Perfect. My discussion. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None. All right. Well, that is good. Okay, we have a couple pieces of correspondence here. We'll take this one first. So we received a letter of notice or of resignation from Jeremiah Sargent. Dear Plymouth Selectboard, Catherine Lowe, Joseph Fagnan, and all concerned, please accept this letter as formal notification that I am resigning from my position as highway foreman for the town of Plymouth. My last day will be Friday, April 29, 2022. Thank you so much for the opportunity to work in this position for the past 10 years. I've greatly enjoyed and appreciated the opportunities I've had working with the public and trying to provide the best services possible and work with my fellow colleagues. While trying to pass on my knowledge and skills over the years, I've been fortunate to have learned a lot as well, which I will certainly take with me throughout my career. The relationships I have formed with fellow employees throughout all departments, as well as the residents of Plymouth, I will continue to cherish. I'll do everything possible to wrap up my duties and train other team members over the next 2 weeks. Please let me know if there's anything else I can do to help during this transition. I wish the town of Plymouth all the best, and I hope to stay in touch in the future. Sincerely, Jeremiah Sargent.
I'll make a motion to accept the resignation of Jeremiah Sargent from the Highway Department.
And I'll regretfully second that.
Yeah, that's not one that any of us really want to vote aye on, is it? Any discussion?
We'll miss him.
Yeah, deeply. He's been a big part of what we've been doing here. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Only if it meant something. Similarly, we have another resignation letter here to Joseph Fagnan, Maya, Sargent, and members of the Select Board. I have tossed the idea of moving on with a new beginning to better myself and my family, so my last day at Plymouth Highway Department will be 4/29/2022. I appreciate the time I've had here, and thank you for allowing me to be a part of the crew. Ben Toomey.
I'll make a motion to accept the resignation of Ben Toomey from the Highway Department.
Second.
All those in, discussion, anyone? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. No new purchase orders or grants. That's interesting. New business. Neil McIver would like to discuss the speed limit on Tenney Mountain Highway.
I happen to live on the other side of Tenney Mountain Highway, and I frequently need to use that road to get from my house to the rest of town. And I've lived out there for 45 years, and I've watched the growth on Tenney Mountain Highway and the traffic patterns. And that highway was designed in 1953, and it was open country when they built that road. And the development out there and the amount of traffic that's going through, it's a main truck route from Montreal and Burlington to Boston and Portland. It's a choke point. And the truck traffic is enormous. And the amount of traffic coming off exit 26 and traveling up the Baker Valley and going over to Newfound Lake is continually increasing, and it's getting to the point where accidents are happening all the time. And there have been fatalities on Tenney Mountain Highway, and I'm really concerned about the Smith Bridge intersection, which the state has been dragging its feet for years to solve that problem. And but it's not just that. It's all the business that's directly entering and coming off of that highway, and you got through traffic going through, and the highway needs to be redesigned. And when you have a 40-mile-per-hour speed limit on that road, and that means people are traveling 50, 55, and 60, and trying to get in and out, you almost have to pray when you get out onto that highway. You don't know if somebody's going to slam on their brakes and pull into the place that sells marijuana, or if they're going to make a left turn and go in the auto parts store. It's getting to the point where I believe we need to cut the speed limit by 5 miles an hour. That would at least slow it down a little, and maybe 35 miles an hour, because then you know they're going to be driving 45 and 50. And that's my input on this. I'm making a point because I want people to be aware that I'm concerned about the safety on that road.
Question, do we, the town of Plymouth, actually govern that?
Yeah, Alex is on the call, so I'm sure he might offer that DOT has that capability.
Good evening, how are you guys?
Oh, well.
Hi, Chief.
No, so that would be a state DOT that we would have to work with to do that. But I agree that the congestion on Tenney Mountain Highway has increased. I don't know if lowering the speed limit is really going to solve an issue. The main problem, as you guys know, is the intersection of Smith Bridge Road and Tenney Mountain Highway. It's a pretty bad and scary intersection, and it's the majority of it. The reason for the accidents is because of the congestions and people trying to make a left-hand turn. But we could work with DOT and see what their thoughts are.
Given that at least the Smith Bridge Road component of that is within our control, could we put a no left turn?
That's what I was thinking. It would be nice.
Smith Bridge Road is a state-maintained road, right?
Oh, Smith Bridge Road is also state?
Right.
Oh.
And
Gotcha.
there haven't been any fatalities at that intersection, correct?
Not that I'm aware of. We recently had a pretty serious accident out there, but it wasn't a fatality.
It's kind of gruesome, but until there was a fatality, that DOT would be kind of reluctant to do anything.
Now, it is in the 10-year plan for them
In
to,
a couple of years, it's going to be engineered, and then we will have a rotary.
right, which should improve the situation, but it
Very
is,
much so.
we're in a bit of a waiting game.
Yeah.
It's my feeling that the road is not properly striped and signage is not adequate. And I think the state needs to be encouraged to at least do striping and signage.
Yeah, I just spoke with the co-op the other day, and they have an entrance across the street from Smith Bridge Road, and they just put signs up so you can't go in there. It's only an exit, just to kind of help alleviate some of that traffic stopping there.
What, so why would they make that an exit only? Because people were
Because there's
trying
a
to go out there
lot
and
of
make a
people
turn?
that'll stop in the middle of the road there to take a left to go into the co-op, but there's
Yeah,
also
okay.
people trying to come out of Smith Bridge, so they were just trying to alleviate some people stopping there to turn.
All right,
That intersection has improper alignment.
yeah, that's going, theoretically, that's going to be addressed when the rotary goes in.
Well, I'm talking about today,
Oh, okay.
really.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm very upset about the traffic pattern out there and the danger that I feel every time I have to get across that road. I generally take Fairgrounds Road if I'm coming into town. It's another mile, but you know it's safer.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree that it's a pretty bad intersection, but we'll have to work with state DOT because they're the ones that have authority to do anything. We've provided them with data about traffic accidents and stuff.
Did we contact state DOT when that most recent accident occurred?
Alex,
We will provide you guys a copy of the report when it's complete, and then we can send that to DOT.
Good.
we did talk about getting a report once it's done to them.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Alex.
Yeah.
Anything else on that topic?
I'm satisfied with his words.
Parks and Recreation Park usage forms. Do we have Lisa Ash on Zoom?
Yep. She's on Zoom.
Yep.
Good evening.
Hey, Lisa.
Oh, hello.
I can read.
Oh,
Yeah, I can see it. I got 2020.
So Lisa, you've been working on the usage form to get a little bit more clarity around various different usages and approval process and all those sorts of things.
right, and as well as the commission has worked on it, and we tried to hear all that you had said about the flag, and we're hoping that that page 2 was a good representation of how the select board feels and the direction you want to go, and we can certainly give it somewhat of a trial and see how I can report back and let you know how it's going. But basically requesting for the flag, and it'll come to you, the board, as well as Kathy. And we'll make sure Robert has the adequate, attachment for the flag, and we'll make sure that stays maintained and is good to go. And then page 1 was some tweaking. I always struggled with this form, so it just is about, at one point Robert was approving, well, at one point Larry, myself, Robert, and it's really the selectmen approving this with us giving you, for Robert to say, yes, the town common can handle 50 people walking on it, or the grounds are okay, or there isn't any issue with the ground. It's really us saying, the facilities look good, and then you take it from here. So I wanted to change that up as well. And I know you often focused on the town common, but I think it's super important that you're all involved in Fox Pond Park and the Riverfront Park as well.
Agreed.
Is there additional, I mean, once we get a request for usage of greater than 50 people, then it goes to PD and that's not, is it indicated on this form as well? Oh, yeah, it does. CC, Fire, Police, Highway, and Recycling Center.
And you're referring to the open air permit, yes, that is reflected right there under that first section that someone would fill out. If you're expecting more than 50 people, please go to the Town of Plymouth website and fill out the open air permit.
Yep.
And Kathy's always right on top of that open air permit, and so isn't the departments getting involved. It gets passed around and everybody looks it over and signs. We have that regatta happening soon here, and that's the first time I've had to push it through. Larry did that, and it was flawless. Everybody was great. Tom was great. Alex was great. Kathy, June, everybody read through it. I got everybody the necessary paperwork, and everybody signed off, passed it to the next one, that kind of thing. Anyone had questions, they reached out,
Okay.
and then went to you all to approve. And again, just the department head saying, we're on top of it, we understand, barbecue, this or that, we're ironing all that out, and then it goes to you for the ultimate say.
It's kind of picky, but so is there a mandate to get porta potties? If you have 50 people, you have to have a porta potty for an event that probably lasts a few hours or something like that, or?
Well, the regatta's gonna have their own.
I think that's in the open air permit, that they need porta potties.
Okay, so it's not necessarily you, it's us or whoever.
50 people or more, they get an open air, yes.
This is going to be less than 50.
Right, yeah.
Okay, yep. Gotcha.
As the form is written, we only have a box for selectman chair. Are we going to extend the authority for signing off on these to the chair? I understand the desire to not want to have to find 3 signatures, but
Yeah.
I try to make it to meetings, I try to get the form to your meetings, so it does, I think, we haven't had to get it approved outside of a meeting, so if you wanted to add more signatures, I think that would be fine.
I mostly just didn't want you to be in a situation where you had to, tell a mom that she couldn't have a, kid's birthday party at Fox Park on a Thursday afternoon. That just seems mean.
I'm okay with it being the town manager.
The town manager's typically enough, but I think if one board member sees it, that is effectively, at least it's been seen.
Sounds good to me.
The other thing I thought about changing, and I would love all your opinion and feedback, I think the 14 days is tricky, because if you had a 3-day weekend and a couple of weekends, I think that should be 14 weekdays or working days. Sometimes on the weekend, we can be out of town, and there's a lot of last minute to get to, say, tonight. For something
do you want
this
to
weekend.
do 10 business days? Is that more what you're looking for?
That's a good idea. Yeah, that sounds great.
10 business days, because it should be at least 2 weeks prior to the function itself.
That'll typically,
And you
that should
see that.
typically get you there.
Yeah, that seems to be common practice, 10 business days. You see that here and there.
Any other discussion around this? Questions for Lisa? Do we need a vote to approve these 2 forms?
To accept them as amended.
Yeah, accept them as amended, and
I'll make a motion. Sure. I'll make a motion that we accept the forms as amended.
Second.
any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Looks great.
I have
Good
a
work,
question
Lisa.
too.
Yeah.
So that document that talks about the guidelines for the town common, that hasn't been touched since 1990. And if you see there, I added in red what the lawyer had said on number 5. And then number 7, now allowing flags. So do you all think that that should get signed? Because the last time there were changes made, it was 3 selectmen. I found that, I went back and looked through past documents, and that was changed in 1990 with the selectmen all signing it.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Okay, I'll prepare that for you all.
And you'll want to make that 10 business day adjustment on this one too.
Yes, thank you.
All set with us otherwise, Lisa?
Thank you, yes, I think I'll be talking to you again.
All right, perfect. On to tax abatement. Vanessa Duff, Joseph Martin, and Assessor Emily Goldstein.
How you doing? I applied for an abatement a few years back, and it was denied because it was late. But we were in the middle of a pandemic, and I feel that, you know, everybody deserves a chance, you know, to get things right. And not only that, my property was appraised. The building I put up was appraised for almost twice what it was worth. Some of the appraisal items, I get a permit for everything. It's a storage shed and an office. It was appraised as a 2-bedroom home with a full working bathroom and kitchen and a heating system. They couldn't see inside to see if it was finished on the first floor. But when you look through the sliding glass door in the office, you can see clearly that it wasn't finished. There were no propane tanks on the outside of the building. There was no septic vent pipe on the outside of the building. So obviously it was a bogus appraisal, and I would just like to have my abatement taken care of. I mean, I don't want the money back. I'd like to have it put on next year's tax bill. And as far as the interest, you can donate it to a worthy cause. I don't even want the interest. I would just like to get my money back. I mean, we're not talking a couple $100. We're talking almost $2,000 on a mistake that was done by the assessor.
Okay.
Does the board have any questions for Mr. Martin before we? I have some questions for the assessor, but I wanted to just make sure we.
I also have pictures of the building, just so you can
Oh,
see
the-
the
the-
size of it.
That would be nice to see. Thank you.
When,
There's a pickup parked next to it. I mean, in the assessor's pictures, it probably looks a lot bigger. But their bottom room is 8 by 9. And on the opposite side,
So this is looking at it from the back. From the back.
that's the back.
So this
yeah.
is the side. This is kind of this side.
Yeah. This is the front. I wanted a nice building because I have good neighbors with a beautiful home. It's just a storage shed. Their room measures 8 by 9. Where the overhead door is measures 9 by 10. And there's an overhang on this room that measures 10 by 12. And the front room measures 14 by 13. There's no way you can fit 2 bedrooms, a full kitchen, and a full bath in that building. There's no septic pipe. There's no propane tanks. They put me down for propane heat. Full bath, full kitchen, 2 bedrooms. And you know what I mean? I just think it was a poor assessment. I mean, nobody's to blame. The guy was new, didn't know what he was doing. You know what I mean? I'm just asking for my money back, and I don't even want a check. I want it put on next year's property taxes.
I've seen this house, and I'm wondering how do you get upstairs? Is there a stairwell?
There isn't even a staircase in yet.
Huh.
Oh, so the upstairs is entirely unfinished?
It's insulated and wide, and that is it.
Okay.
Yep.
So no like living space or anything up there?
No.
Yeah.
No. I built it by myself. I used to
So
build
when you go
homes.
in that front door, that's just like an office kind of?
It's storage for my business. I run a detailing business over at West Shore Marine.
Okay.
Yep.
And so eventually a staircase will go in there somewhere and?
Yeah. Yep.
don't have any septic system?
Nope. No well, no septic. And I get permits for everything that I do.
Do you have questions for Emily while she's here?
I just wanted to finish. Yeah, thanks. Sorry, I should have
that's
told you
all
to
right.
take a seat. I just wanted to look, before I talk to her, I wanted to take a glance through this again.
When did you build it?
I built it piece by piece. I've been doing it for 4 years, totally just me.
2018? Is that when you started?
Probably right around there. Yep. It started out as a 9x8 shed that I kept my mower in. And then you know how it is. You go on, you need more room, you know. So you add on, you add on.
Emily, would you like to give us a summary of what you know about this property?
Coming up here at the podium.
Whatever you prefer.
It doesn't really matter.
Okay, podium's great.
All right, so Mr. Martins is correct that there was an assessment that happened in 2020 prior to my contract beginning here within the town. I did get a phone call from him in, I believe it was January of 2021, kind of upset about the assessment, and I explained to him at that point in time what the process was, that once you receive your tax bill, your second tax bill of the year, all taxpayers have until March 1st to file an abatement. It would need to be something in writing by March 1st, as prescribed by law. And that I would like to see the property at that time, but it didn't have to be before that deadline would come up. So that could be in writing to us by March 1st, and then we could take some time when he would be up here to be able to look at the property and see what is truly there. Since then, I did have a data collector, Steve Delapel. He's a Whitney Consulting employee. He went out to the property, and Mr. Martins was kind enough to go through with him the entire property record card, what is truly there, and we've made all of the adjustments as was seen and discussed with Mr. Martins for 2021 tax year. Unfortunately, the abatement application, which was a letter, wasn't received by the town until May 10th, so well after the abatement deadline. At that point in time, those changes had been made for the 21 tax year, and a recommendation for a denial was submitted to the board. The board took the recommendation and denied it based on an untimely file. Unfortunately, the state law does not allow for accident, mistake, or misfortune with the abatement application. The governor gave a lot of extensions for things during the pandemic, and extending the time period for an abatement was not one of them. Subsequently, Mr. Martins filed forward to the Board of Tax and Land Appeals, as is his right, by September 1st, and the Board of Tax and Land Appeals dismissed the case as the town didn't receive a timely filed abatement. So that is one of the precursors for being heard by the Board of Tax and Land Appeals. So that's the next step in the process. And then the abatement that is in front of you is going back to 2020, which is a year past the deadline. So those changes have been made, and Mr. Martins has been very gracious to have us out to his property. I have no ill will towards him whatsoever. The only purpose here is to, we follow the law when it comes to abatements, when it comes to exemptions and credits. That's all that this is that the written application was untimely filed, and therefore we could only move forward with those changes.
Thank you.
Yep.
That's a lot of detail. I appreciate it.
Do you have any questions for me?
So you confirmed what he said about the condition of the property?
Yeah, it is unfinished still. And I believe in the packet with the 2021, there is a current listing of how the property reads. We do still have it as under construction. And there are adjustments there for having no kitchen. We do have no bathrooms in there, only 3 rooms, although it sounds like it may be only 2 rooms with a storage area, but that's not an impact on value. That's a data point. Okay. Yeah. So we, like I said, we went through with him all of the data points, and you know, he was very gracious to let us out onto the property, and we've had several conversations, and I don't disagree that the assessed value now is a more appropriate value. Unfortunately, the time frame to appeal your final assessment goes until March 1st of the following year.
Has the assessment been adjusted for this tax year?
So the assessment was adjusted for the 2021 tax year.
Okay.
Confusingly, we're now in the 2022 tax year, and it doesn't sound as though much has changed from the property from one year to the next. If we haven't had someone out there as of yet, then we will be having someone go out and visit the property. Anything that is under construction gets a visit annually from the assessor.
Okay, so we're good for 2022. It was correct for 2021. It's 2020 is the year
Right.
that it was incorrect.
Yeah. And, you know, all taxpayers have the same ability to file an abatement, and it merely has to be in writing. It doesn't have to be on the prescribed form. As long as it is something written that can be sent to the town, it's considered an abatement application.
He doesn't actually live there. He lives in Massachusetts, I believe, and he just comes up to visit.
Yep.
But there might be long periods of time when he's not there.
It doesn't have to be hand-delivered. It can be postmarked or hand-delivered by March 1st of any given year. So that postmark date becomes important because that's what the Board of Tax and Land Appeals is looking for. Was it hand-delivered, and what was the date it was hand-delivered? And was it sent by mail, and what was the date on that postmark?
Is there any dispute around the timing of? Is there any dispute around the timing of when we were notified?
The timing of what?
The time that we received the letter.
Which letter?
The original letter, May 10th one,
Yeah, the letter that we received on May 10th, 2021. That date is correct.
Yeah, he's just, in the
Oh.
COVID should be forgiven.
When I came to get the abatement, I wrote a letter.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's correct.
That's
Bob.
correct, okay.
Also, in January, when I talked to him, I probably 2 or 3 times over the phone, wanted to send me an application. I don't understand applications. I didn't even graduate high school. I run good business, I have good skills, but I don't understand applications. I have 8 children. My children are all spread out. They're all grown up. One of them's in the Philippines. I do not know how to use a computer. All right, I tried to get up here before that. We were in a pandemic. I was waiting for truck parts to come in. I mean, there was no way for me to fill out an application correctly and get it back to her. Well, right around January, or one of them 3 phone calls that we had, I had told you there was no kitchen, no bathroom. Over the phone, I had told you this. And I also told you that I'd be up here to work May 1st. Could we wait? And you could do a walkthrough at that point.
Yep. Unfortunately, in RSA 7616, it does have to be something in writing. It doesn't have to be, like I said, it doesn't have to be in the prescribed application as put forward by the Board of Tax and Land Appeals, but it does have to be written in writing.
I didn't know that.
And I do believe that an abatement application was sent to you at that point in time. During one of our conversations, I confirmed the mailing address to make sure that I could get it to the right place. And this time around, when he received the abatement application it was either late 2021 or early 2022, he called and we went through how to fill out the abatement application. So there's been, I have been willing to work with the taxpayer. Unfortunately, that law states that it has to be. Yeah. And we have the abatement application that was submitted in February 24th, 2022.
Gotcha. So it all comes down to that handwritten letter being submitted effectively 10 days late.
No.
2 months.
2 months late. So it was submitted in May. It should
May.
have been submitted in March.
Right.
Thank you for that clarification.
second one.
Yeah, I was not aware that I could just write a letter. I was told that I had to fill out an abatement application. I mean, I could have wrote a letter. It's applications that I do not understand.
Just to kick off discussion, I think I appreciate his due diligence, but I think because of the nature of both the state law, BTLA, review, and trying to obtain a letter that didn't come, I think I would recommend just to refuse the abatement request.
I would agree.
And it sounds like flipping through this, the recourse that, further recourse is with the courts.
So for the 2020, tax year 2020 abatement application, that was appealed to the Board of Tax and Land Appeals last year. And that, like I said, that was dismissed for an untimely filed application. I would recommend to the taxpayer before submitting that to give a call to the Board of Tax and Land Appeals. It is a $65 filing fee to the Board of Tax and Land Appeals. And so I would hate for them to, again, submit this information and have it be dismissed under an untimely filed. So that would be my recommendation. At this point in time, that would be a call that would be well made, to see if they would even accept an application from 2022 that would refer back to the 2020 tax year.
Yeah, and actually, looking more closely at this judge decision, even if you were going to file an appeal, it would have had to have been within 30 days of the decision.
Right.
And that decision was September 23rd, so we're well past that timeline as well. Any thoughts?
Well, I feel really bad about this because, that's quite a lot of money, and he doesn't have any water or sewer, and he doesn't have the facilities that he was charged for, and I just think that it's really hard.
Yeah, I agree.
May I just put one more thing out there?
Please.
Making a decision to accept an abatement application well beyond the deadline may put out there to other taxpayers that ability would be available to anyone, including some of the larger taxpayers within Plymouth. So as a consideration, we would want to, I urge you to just consider that in making your determination.
Yeah, I mean, as unfortunate as it is in this situation, it feels like we have the laws and the guidelines and the rules in place so that it is consistent. And that produces an unfortunate outcome for Mr. Martins in this scenario. But I'm not sure it would be the right thing for us to overturn.
No, I would agree.
Looks like the consensus of the board.
Do we need a motion?
Can I say one more thing too?
Yes, sir.
I talked to Joe Kenny about this whole matter, and Joe Kenny said it was very un-American. We were in a pandemic. It's not like you have to do this for all the taxpayers every year. We were in a pandemic at the time, and overcharged, and they didn't go by the paperwork. I have building permits for everything I've done on that land. I don't have a building permit for a kitchen, a bathroom, a septic, or a well. So I think it was a poor assessment. And, now I have to pay for that? Or dig my way out of it? I don't think it's very American either. You shouldn't have to do it for everybody. This was a pandemic that lasted a year. We're not talking doing it every year. We're talking about this one time because of what was going on. And we've always paid our taxes with this town.
Did you want to?
Sure. It is with regret I make a motion to reject the the appeal for tax abatement.
Right in the middle of them. Not yet.
Until we have a second.
I mean, technically, it's a member of the public.
Oh.
Jesse, are you a taxpayer in town? Yes, then you can speak. Just say your name for the purposes of...
Jennings, Plymouth, New Hampshire. Emily, I got a question. Does the law state in the verbiage shall or must?
I don't have a copy of the law in front of me, but I can pull it up on my phone or my computer.
Because that is a deciding factor.
So I can read to you from the judge's decision. The judge's decision says, any party seeking a rehearing, reconsideration, or clarification of this decision. Oh, wait, that's just on this motion. Sorry, hold on.
It says must. Taxpayer must file the abatement application with the municipality by March 1st following the notice of tax. Must.
Thank you. That was
And that is
important clarification. Appreciate it, Jesse.
on the back of here. First page.
So. did you
Continue
make-
my motion.
Yes, please.
With regret, make a motion to reject the appeal for tax abatement.
I'll second.
All those, any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Looks like 3-1 on that. Sorry, Mr. Martins.
All right, do I have any other options, like reference Superior Court, or?
Yes, I'm happy to give you a phone call on Wednesday. I'll be in to discuss with you what your next possible steps would be for your 2020 abatement.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Emily. Timber cut discussion. We have in front of us a proposal for cutting timber on one of the town of Plymouth lots. Is that correct?
The one behind the recycling center.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
The circular,
that's
that
what
way?
I
Back this
gave
way?
that to you.
Just make sure I don't have it
Here's-
still.
Yeah, I'm making sure I don't have them.
Oh, she's gone. All right, thank you.
Thank
You're welcome.
So I had asked for a logger to go out to two properties that are town-owned, one behind recycling and one behind the police department, to see if there was any wood out there for cutting and what the town could make out of that wood. And he went and he looked at both lots, and for the recycling center, he's estimating approximately $15,000 to $20,000 to the town for the cut up there. He said could be more, could be less, but to go by Department of Revenue prices, it looks like it probably would be more to me. And if it is more, he would pay that difference anyway. So I just wanted to get the board's approval for him to to move forward with the cut, to file an intent with us and move forward with the cut. And he'll present a slip once it's done that shows how much was cut, and we'll be able to validate the pricing with the Department of Revenue's price list.
So where exactly is it? Is it behind where we're thinking about like logging anyway, or?
Yes, for the purposes of the solar array.
Yep.
So that would be helpful to them as well when they're ready to move forward.
Yeah, if they choose that location, yeah.
This includes the removal of all the
Stumps.
slash and stumps
I
and
don't
everything.
think, I
It
don't,
does have stump
Most of
removal.
the woods will be from broken
yeah,
off.
slash is left in the woods, slash left in the woods would be broken off from limbs. The tops of the trees will be chipped.
All
all stumpage will be paid within 14 days of the wood leaving the
Stumps
lane.
were left in the ground,
Yeah.
but they're paying a stump tax. Correct.
Okay, so we're not removing the
We're not
stumps.
removing the stumps. So if there were a solar array,
We would have to go in
we
and
would have, somebody would have to go in and remove them.
Have to, what, sand it down or
either
something?
grind,
well,
well, either grind them or remove them.
Grind 'em,
Grind,
yeah.
most likely,
Yeah.
they would,
Most likely, we would remove them,
yeah.
especially if there's going to still be slash on the ground.
Because grinding isn't going to leave a surface that is conducive to a solar array.
Well, no, and it's time consuming. Once you do that for one in your yard. You don't do that for
A forest.
45
Stumps.
acres.
Stumps can be buried on site as long as they're not in the water table. They're up above the water table.
So you just bring an excavator in.
So, yeah, you just pop them with an
Pop them with an excavator and then dig a big
Same
hole.
guy that does the grading.
Gotcha.
Is now a good time to sell lumber? Pretty much, I guess, everyone's getting a good price for, you're paying enough for it.
Yeah. I mean, this is money that you're gonna get.
Although not a
And
lot.
there's not a lot of good timber on this lot. It had been logged before.
Right. Back in the day. Jesse, do you have any comment on this?
I have no comment on it. I have recommended it.
Okay.
$20,000 seems quite low.
Yeah.
I've been up in, I've walked that parcel. I think the town can generate real revenue, and $20,000 is not a lot. It's just an estimate, and it's an estimate.
And is this going to go out for bid, or is this guy,
It's just him, and if the board wants it to go out for bid, then we can see if there are other loggers that would participate.
I would think for open process, we'd want to put it out for bid.
I would agree.
But this gives us an idea of
Yeah.
what we're talking about anyway.
yeah.
That makes sense to you?
When we did a timber harvest on the airport land, we did quite well. We put
Yeah.
it out to bids, and
We did.
we did really well. So I think we should, we got Mr. Sharp's bid, and we should get some more bids.
Well, if we do a formal
Yeah,
bid, he can
rebid it,
submit
yeah.
something new.
Yeah, you can just resubmit this.
He could, or he could,
Sharpen his pencil.
Yes.
Things, yeah.
Yep. Well, I'm assuming that he believes this is the best offer. And
Well, he's probably one of the most successful timber harvesters in the area.
makes sense.
Yep.
Yep.
I was just thinking, we got like 60 grand or something like that out of the airport.
No, we got
big's that airport piece?
76,000,
Was
I
it,
think.
was it one-
76,000.
Okay.
Not much to
We
say.
did really well.
How many acres?
This is like,
40-something.
that's what I was
45.
thinking.
Yeah.
And a
45.
lot of it's like wetland.
They didn't cut it all.
Yeah.
They left a lot of future timber.
that's what you want. You want something that's
Yeah.
gonna not fall down, of course. You don't leave the big ones in there so they can just fall down as soon as you get a wind.
8 to 10 sea trees per acre. Anyway, that's great.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
So we'll put it out, advertise it. The other lot was behind the police station, and he said that it was too steep for anybody to get up there.
On that note, what's the expected disruption at the recycling center while the logging's going on? Yeah, that'd be great.
Honestly, there's a landing up. There's a road access, and there's a landing up there. They can process everything, bring it down.
Separate from the main entry to the
No,
recycling center?
you have
or
to go
they would
through the
still have
main
to use that?
entrance, and then they would go up the hill a little bit ways. Neil, do you know the access to that first landing?
I've been up in there.
Okay, so there is an area where they can make a landing and process the wood and bring it and load it at that first landing. It wouldn't be any more than having tractor trailers go in there every so often. So, no, I don't think it is real detriment to the public or operations.
Good. Any other questions about logging on that lot? Let's move on to recycling metrics.
Do I have sharing controls? Okay, cool.
Andrew, the man behind the curtain.
It's gotta find the. I'll just share the whole screen because it's not show all windows. Come on. There we go. So, consistent with our recent initiative to do some comparisons to other local towns or towns in the state, this week we're looking at the recycling centers. For some of these areas, they are including other things that do not make them necessarily a good match, and we'll talk a little bit about it as we go through. Specifically, Franklin was one that I discussed at length with Jesse and Kathy. It seems that their budget is all-inclusive, and this is not the most recent number. It's like actually bigger.
It's $1,099,000.
Yeah. But it seems that there is a large contingency of materials that are not included in their total shipped. It's stuff that they're picking up directly from the streets. Do I have that right?
Yes.
So I'm not really sure that Franklin itself or anyone that is actually doing a street side pickup is necessarily a good comparator for.
Oh, so Franklin is doing street side pickup, not just at the facility?
Their main operation is curbside pickup.
Gotcha. And that's going to take a lot more staff just to operate the trucks and get people out?
Yeah, it's weird.
So it's contracted out through a private company.
Interesting.
So it's part of their costs.
But it's not part of the 10-person staff?
It's not part of the staff and their number. I think they're 1,999,000 includes the cost for the curbside pickup.
Contract, but not, it shows up differently.
So Franklin specifically is probably the most apples to oranges comparison that we can get. So I'm just going to highlight that one in yellow as just something to keep in mind.
So the 10 employees with the question mark on it, I looked at the annual facilities report, which is submitted every year by every transfer station in the state. So what that is, they only have, in actuality, 3 people that actually work at the transfer station. They're backed up by the Highway Department, so that means that every one of them has a solid waste certification, which is in the annual facilities report. So it's the actual number for Franklin is 2 full-time, 1 part-time.
Oops. Oh, sorry, got that wrong. That should be 3, 2, 1. All right, anyway. So for the point of discussion, Franklin is kind of really too much of an outlier to do any kind of real comparison. So one of, the basic metrics that I came up to look at is we're looking at the total tonnage shipped, their overall budget, and their population. So,
Population number?
To your left.
I got a little thing on my screen that's overlying, so I couldn't drag it over. So the population here,
Oh, I see.
I'm going to make that as small as possible so that we can see the whole screen, the whole the whole width.
You could freeze it also, so it makes it a little easier.
Yep, could, but I'm not going to do that on the fly. It's all there anyway. So I sorted this right now is sorted by the total cost per ton. Sandown coming in at the lowest at $104, and if you exclude Franklin, Plymouth comes in at $305 per ton. So that's just looking at it raw per ton based on budget and how many tons you're processing. Whether the tonnage is recyclables or just trash that's shipped out, it doesn't really matter from that perspective.
Yeah, he's still going to handle it.
There's probably other ways to slice and dice this.
And those are budgets. They don't have any offsets from revenues or anything like that included in them?
No, this is just raw budget. So I think in some cases we have where there's a significant probably offset based on how much they're selling stuff for. But since we don't have consistent data for that, it's not really something we can consider. I did calculate this based on cost per 100 population, and so I could sort on that one as well. So if we sort on 100 population, the lowest is Durham at $46 and change per 100. And if we come down here and exclude, again, Franklin, Keene comes in at 195. And this one, and so this one is this last column is a calculation that is based on a ratio of trash to recycle. So you can get a sense for how much of their total tonnage,
Recycling, yeah.
how much is recycled and how much is just pure trash. So I'll ignore again Franklin because theirs is partially outsourced. Farmington has about 9% of their total being recycling, and Peterborough comes in at 6.
Shocking range.
Yeah. So it's a question of how are the numbers calculated. I don't know if that really is meaningful in the sense of how we do comparisons. But I figured it would be an interesting statistic. I think that's all I actually calculated. I got windows popping up in front of me all the time. I go to click on one thing and it
Return on recyclables has been really low.
I looked at a couple of town reports, and some people are reporting a great deal of revenue from it, while others are not. So it seems to be a little bit hit or miss.
Interesting. Go back to the cost per total tons. So from this perspective, we have the highest cost per tonnage
Yep.
in the comparator list.
And considering that we have Franklin that we already questioned about in there, if we included Franklin's numbers for what they actually collect curbside, I think if I recall,
Their cost should drop.
the
because-
cost
yeah.
drops to be more comparable, I think, to Guilford or something like that.
Is that, what's the number? Is it 305?
Ours is 305.
Yeah.
Sandmorton is right behind us at 298.
Well, Franklin only has single stream recycling.
They're not recycling anything.
They don't do anything?
No.
Yeah, well, basically, it's most of it's curbside pickup, so it's just going and whatever the company does with it.
Currently, they're not even doing curbside recycling. Everything is going to the incinerator. The only recycling that they're doing is voluntary, and that's it. It goes to the transfer station. That is it.
How do we pick up our revenue for recycling?
I heard
Like
metal's
a-
up.
Yeah, I was thinking aluminum. Just,
I was,
I'd like to just throw something out there.
How do we reduce our cost per ton? That's
Well, one of the easiest ways, if we do some kind of study to figure out when people are really coming.
See,
I don't
we
mean like
reduce-
when one person comes like 8 o'clock on a Monday morning or something like that. When are our patterns of high usage? And maybe one of the things that we consider is adjusting our hours to match when people really come.
We can look on Google. Google already has it.
Right,
As-
because they're pulling it
Tracked
from
on your phone.
the tracking,
That's true.
phone tracking
It's
data.
literally, at this day, at this hour, is the highest usage.
Interesting. We ought to pull that.
I mean, yeah, you're looking at the totality of everybody's budget. It's not what MSW and trucking is not. You would have to go ask each individual town what their actual expense line for
Mhm.
MSW and trucking. To answer your question, I do have a plan to increase revenues by modifying our permits so that way we can take waste from other towns. That being said, that's going to increase the budget.
Well, I wouldn't want to take waste from other towns if it's not,
Recycling.
if it's not going to be a net positive for Plymouth.
You would charge out of state or out of town personnel or residents, non-residents, more.
Yeah.
If you want to use the facility, you're going to have to pay.
And Guilford was like theoretically going to be doing that styrofoam melting, make bricks out of it. And, so we can do that with aluminum cans, maybe. I don't want to deal with foam.
We already bail on aluminum cans. So we have big giant bricks.
Yeah, they're not. There's
No,
not.
I'm just thinking money-wise.
Otherwise, that's one. You could go with a pay-as-you-throw for bags, and that will make people recycle.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to pay $5 a bag with a bunch of recyclables in it. I know, I don't.
Yeah, another thing, and I know we've mentioned this before. Anecdotally, I happen to know that there is a high number of people off that road that are in Camden that use the facility. Perhaps a targeted initiative to
Check
Stickers.
check stickers
I
or
don't think he's got enough manpower to monitor the people
that's very
coming
true.
in.
You know, I'll tell you when, this is 20 years ago now, but 20 years ago, the recycling center used to show over each of the windows, they had a Plymouth pays $50 a ton for everything that goes through this window.
Right.
And then on the glass window, Plymouth earns $5, whatever the number is, I'm making numbers up, but they used to have those numbers above each of the windows. And I can remember as a young person thinking, well, that's motivating. You know what I mean? Like the number was right there in my face. Like I'm costing us money when I throw through this window, and I'm making us money when I throw through this window.
there are things I'm sure we could do.
No, signage is definitely a big thing. Education is a big thing.
Yeah.
And sticker checking.
It's a pain in the butt.
Well, yes, it's a
But it
pain,
works.
it's a pain in the butt, but what I'm proposing here isn't that we do it every day. We pick a week where maybe you just have someone checking them. And maybe next 3 or 4 you don't. And then, so they never know when they're coming in whether they're going to be asked for. And so you don't incur that as a long-term cost, and maybe it's something that we could hire someone from the high school to do,
Yeah.
just to check.
Or you put a sign up at the end of the road that
Yep.
says we've started doing sticker checks.
We started
Don't
doing
actually
random
do it.
sticker checks and then and really do it on a random basis. And to just kind of build that expectation, like, hey, if you're from another town, that
Move along.
perhaps you move along, or we'll sell you a sticker for whatever you think at the right price is, so that we give them a
That's a good
legitimate
idea.
Yeah.
Give them a
A path
legitimate.
to legitimacy.
Yeah.
So with that, if we were going to do that, we're going to modify the town's permit with the state.
Oh, is that true?
That has to happen.
So the town's permit for the state states
Only
that
for-
only Plymouth? And does that permit with the state say that we're enforcing that?
Forcing it?
Yeah.
Enforcing it.
Enforcing it. Today, if we're allowing people to,
We don't, what?
by
I would
not
say we're not
complying,
allowing people to do it. We're not allowing them to do it.
if you're never enforcing it, you are
We
allowing.
do sticker checks.
I had a truck that I didn't have a sticker on for 3 years, and no one ever asked me. So
Well-
we're not doing sticker checks.
I don't think he has enough help.
On Saturday?
Yeah, the manpower to do it is tricky.
Yeah.
Because he's not be able to do what his job is, but
I know one thing, the Campton Solid Waste Facility is actually in the town of Thornton, and it's a long ways from Beach Hill. And Beach Hill is just a little
Oh, yeah, I
cruise.
know.
So do I.
That's kind of the issue here, is like, we should be doing at least some due diligence.
just ding
Yeah.
the town. If we can, say that, 10% of your residents come to our recycling center, then we'll send Campton a bill.
Well, I mean, we either reduce the tonnage that way, or if we can't actually give them a path to legitimacy, then I think we need to do some kind of, some
I
level of
think
enforcement.
reducing the tonnage is something we should be working on. I think increasing the recycling, quantities and thus revenues as well is something we should be doing. But there's a secondary question that still, when I look at this, why does it cost us more, significantly more than the median per ton to operate? Is it bad? Is it bad data? Is it bad comparators? Is it that we are just more expensive?
It's the totality of budgets. That's the only thing that you're seeing right now. Recycling in itself, it's an expensive business. It's not, the way you want to reduce waste, it goes on the consumer. That's how you reduce waste.
I am more interested in reducing cost. Like, how do we get, and we can reduce cost through improved revenues.
Yep.
In Vermont, they're reducing the amount of food waste that goes into the landfills.
It does.
And is there some way that we could approach that?
The only way that you'd be able to do that is through composting. And with that comes another permit, land area, construction. You have to have a pen, and you have to have a piece of equipment until that thing.
That's really where your costs.
Every day
Give me a second.
to make windrows. I don't know when I would be able to do a food composting.
Yeah, we could do it, but it doesn't mean
Could the town
costs are, but we can put it in there, we'll see
investigate
what it
that?
is.
as a possible source of
Equals.
separating food waste from the main stream that goes to the landfills? Could we investigate that?
I mean, checking with some,
Restaurants.
no, I was thinking with neighboring towns, or just, is anybody else doing it and have any data?
All I can think of is like the
just help.
common man is very concerned.
I think Hanover's,
Hanover's doing
I
composting?
think Hanover's doing it.
I think what also occurred lately is the fact that you can do compost like dairy products and like meat.
Because the
So usually those were kind of left out
Yeah,
of
those used to
composting.
be a no-no, right?
But now it's like acceptable. It was just a recent article that actually Joyce Weston sent around.
it
Joyce.
changes it.
Yep. Joyce.
Oh, she could help us.
Yep.
Yeah.
Vegetable composting is easy.
Yeah.
Once you add meat and dairy to it,
Yeah.
that's the problem.
Flies, smell. You have to maintain a
I'm
temperature.
not worried about flies or smell. I'm worried about bigger
Be
animals.
feeding the
Yeah.
bears.
Bears
That would
and-
reduce the amount of composting you'll need, though. Actually, a bear visited us last night.
Maybe we just feed the
If you go
coyotes.
the food
Goes away.
food composting route,
There you
the
go.
town will incur a cost. It has to.
If we what?
The town will incur a cost if we go to food composting.
Yeah, I think that the research that Neil's suggesting is we should get some estimates. We should get some idea of, if we incurred that cost, what's the offset in terms of cost? If we break even, that may be interesting. If we save some money, well, that's even better. If it costs, well, may not be quite as interesting.
Well, it might reduce quite a lot of tonnage.
Right.
Maybe. I mean, these are things that we should be looking into.
Do the local restaurants use our recycling center?
Yes, they get charged.
Okay.
They get charged for,
The waste that they bring to the facility.
okay. If they bring it there.
If they bring it there, yes.
Some probably have dumpsters.
Well, probably.
Most of them do. There's
Yeah.
not too many that actually bring, the restaurants bring waste to it, waste to the facility. But yes, they, every one of them, they get charged.
They have rendering companies too. Rendering companies take the meat byproduct or grease.
Oh,
Yeah.
right. I'm sure they have a container that, that's where they put all their stuff. And they come to our
I
facility.
think Hannaford's and anybody that's got a butcher shop is going to have a rendering truck come.
Well, this is another interesting data set. Next steps or any action items out of this?
I recommend that we look at ways, well, maybe we have Jesse submit either ways to increase revenue or reduce costs to Kathy.
Mm-hmm.
I would really love to see the number for Plymouth not be. I sorted this again just based on Ann's suggestion of dividing by just total tonnage of trash, and
Just trash, yeah.
it doesn't really, because the mix of recycled to trash is so low, it didn't change things substantially.
Yeah, we're still sort of sinking to the bottom there.
Do you have full complement of employees now?
Currently, right, yes.
That's good news. It's been a long run. Mm-hmm. Anything else for Jesse around recycling?
No? Then I'll stop my share.
At some point, then we need to talk about glass and making sand again. Because I like that idea you had a couple of years ago. We ended up not being able to move forward on it. But.
Well, I've got Neil, he's gonna help me out with the wetlands permit. And we're gonna use that glass. It's gonna take a lot of, it'll save the town money on fill.
Yeah, yeah. Anything else in new and other business that we didn't otherwise address? I didn't miss anything.
Nope.
All right. Committee items. No Mary Ann.
I wasn't sure why. Oh, this is probably for non-public.
Skip
Thank
forward to planning board.
Thank you.
Neil, did you go to planning board last Thursday?
I did.
Yeah. Do you have a
Yeah.
report from planning board?
Yeah, I do. John Christ is the chair, and Rebecca is vice chair. June and Joseph were there. They received a wetlands permit application for a single-family home on Yetton Road. New Car Ford of Plymouth has an application to demo their showroom. They're not going to expand the size of it. It's going to be the same size, but they're also going to build an addition on the, they're going to remodel the showroom, demo it and then remodel it, be all new. And then they want to have like an addition on the side of the building towards the southeast. And we had engineer Will Davis from Horizons Engineering made a presentation. The application was accepted as complete. There were a lot of questions about how the increased runoff was going to be handled, and Horizons is working on an assessment of stormwater.
Where's that?
It's new car Ford.
Oh.
Yeah, it's the Ford dealer.
Yeah.
And so,
If it's the same footprint, what's the runoff effect?
well, they're going to change how the water is directed.
Oh, okay.
And it's going to increase the velocity. And so we need to have an assessment of the culverts and the detention areas that handle that water, and because it's an engineering issue. And we got 2 engineers on the planning board, plus I'm a stormwater specialist.
That's great.
And so then we had another informational review from New Hampshire Electric Co-op for a waiver request for a fiber optic facility at the fairgrounds property. And this is a very small building. It's 200 square feet, and it's going to be not far from the road. As you look at the property, it would be on the left. It's part of the broadband initiative, and they're going to have one probably in Plymouth, one in Wentworth. You know, I think they have to boot it up or something every so often, you know, in order to get it all the way out into the hinterland. So that we gave them a waiver approval because we didn't think that they really needed to go through the full review process for this little 200 square foot building that has no facilities in it. And so they were given that waiver, and from site plan review regulations. And it was concluded that the general standards for site plan review need to be updated and be more specific. And that was with input from our town planner. And Phil Lamoro, a member of the committee, reported on the Capital Improvement Committee, which has approved its charge and purpose statement, the draft goals. It's just getting started. And finally, Joseph Perez reported on a spreadsheet for digital CIP items and organization and updates. So he's, I guess you'd call it fast tracking the information outlay so that it won't be so cumbersome. Is that a good way to say it?
Yep, no, it's solid, and I'll use that just as,
Yeah.
you know, to just basically repeat what you said. Joseph has produced a really nice set of spreadsheets and starting to collect all that data from the various departments. So that's helping us to evaluate and think through CIP items.
Speed it right up.
Yep. Much easier than, you know, a stack of forms or something. Is that it for planning board, Neil?
Yes.
Campus Community Council,
You know,
No
is
news.
on hiatus until fall at the very earliest. Well, late summer.
PES has not met since we last met.
ERHS did. There was about a half an hour of meeting. Basically, Randy and Sean came in to talk about the new CTE program. I'm not 100% sure what's involved with that, but the sense of the room is that this is good. Lisa's still here, so she can actually say a little more about that because she is probably a lot more familiar. But essentially, it dovetails into giving us opportunities. So maybe Lisa, if you want to say something about that.
Well, I was very excited because this is somewhat of a game changer for our department. We spend about $80,000 on salaries part-time, and we used to spend over $100,000, but we merged with the college and capitalized on a lot of the programs, et cetera, that are there. But this is a program that the students will receive credit for outdoor leadership recreational opportunities. I was very excited about this. Things like lifeguarding, trail maintenance, wilderness therapy, ski patrol park ranger, program developer, camp counselor, trail design, trail maintenance, bike tech, recreation director, advisory boards that would be involved, or PSU, Park and Rec, Squam Lake Science Centers, Whale's Tail, Squam Lakes Association, Plymouth Ski and Sport, and Waterville Valley Ski Area, possibly Loon. I was excited too because Kelsey's coming back in a couple of weeks, and she's worked, Sean O'Brien was the one that came to me and said, you and Kelsey Bowden need to unite. That was about 9-10 years ago. So she worked for Sean about 12 years ago, and he's gonna head this up. And so Kelsey, I reached out to her, and she's very excited. So this would be students that would want to go in any one of those fields and have the opportunity to not only research work, but get high school credit for it. And we wouldn't pay for them to work for us. We'd just have to strongly supervise them, but we do that anyways with the college students. So I'm ecstatic. This is a game changer for our department. We could possibly cut that part-time account in half. So fingers crossed.
That sounds amazing. Yeah. Good opportunities for young people and savings for you.
Exactly. Very excited.
Additionally, they were pretty exciting about their PSAT test scores for the 9th graders. Basically, they were in excess of the state standards. You know, Plymouth was in excess of the state standards in both English and math. So that was a big plus.
Good.
There's talk about, they don't have the data for 10th and 11th yet. I guess that's coming up. I had something about a set of instructional coordinators. Unfortunately, the conversation was so quick that I could only catch the names that I recognized. For languages, it was going to be Ruella and Science O'Brien. And then there was a school operations nominations for chair and vice. They were waiting on someone who wasn't there to accept their nomination for the chair, but the person who was willing to be vice was there, and he accepted it. Let's see, there was discussion about paving. I'm not exactly sure where. Again, this was kind of like rattled out very quickly. I tried to catch as much data as I could. Something about teacher's lot. Something for Snow Fox. I assume that's some kind of piece of equipment, I think. Two vehicles. Totaling for the paving / other areas in that particular discussion, it was $213K if I remember correctly. There is also some major bathroom renovations going to occur to the tune of $1.8 million for 8 bathrooms.
Is it gold fixtures?
I don't know. Correct me if I got any of the numbers wrong. Basically 2 phases, do one in one wing first and then the other wing. My understanding is that these bathrooms would be basically single gender, everyone with like a individual locking stall. Not really a stall, it's like a individual bathroom, I guess, on a little hallway.
Mm-hmm.
At least that's the current. There was a few people who raised concerns about this. I think it was tabled for next meeting. I'm looking to you, Lisa, because
Yes.
okay.
So
I'm
we
looking
have
for
a big-
validation I got it right.
Yes, you're close, yes. We have a huge problem with the bathrooms. Supervision, vaping, shenanigans that get escalated in the bathrooms. So they're gonna all have, eventually down the road, and we've talked about this for years, having individual units. It's more likely that statistics show they'll go in, do what they need to do, and come out, as opposed to faculty always policing and finding things going on. I mean, I remember when I got hired in 1990, I would always go in the bathroom, it would smell like smoke. Because that was a long time ago and not anymore, but, you know, now it's becoming more and more of a problem, because with vaping, you can't necessarily smell it. And it's definitely something that's a shared activity kind of a thing. So we're hoping to change that, and there's a lot of funding for it as well.
It's kind of a dumb question, but if you have individual units, then you really can't police it anymore.
They say if they're alone, they're less likely to.
Not get caught.
Well,
So we'll phase it in.
Additionally, there was some discussion about their holdback from going from 2.5% ratio to the 5%. But that would need to go to a district vote to approve. They couldn't do it right now anyway. That's
What
the
percent
money
is
that
that?
they're allowed to, is it carry over?
Oh,
Yes,
gotcha.
yes. Yeah, we're pretty committed to carrying over as much as we can, so, with a couple of little emergency projects.
And that's all I have.
Good stuff from the high school. Neil, Conservation Commission?
I was unable to attend. However, I have some notes regarding what they did. Ina Ahern's class, which worked on mapping watersheds and wildlife habitats and relate the relationship to producing clean water. It's called Forests to Faucets. That's what they call their project. And students gave their reports April 19th at Plymouth Regional High School auditorium, and the Conservation Commission attended. So that's all I can tell you.
Nice. LRPC, did you have a commissioner meeting?
No, the commission's meeting is tonight.
Oh, it's a meeting?
Tonight.
Commission meeting, yeah, the West Region Planning Commission. We had an executive committee meeting
Executive Committee meeting.
last week.
Are you on it?
Yep. And we just, in fact, I should have brought the agenda, but one of the things we talked about was, Fidium and the
Broadband.
building out, fiber optic cable, and they're doing more of like a Western North Country kind of thing, state. But I guess.
Do we know what the electric company's plan is in regards to Plymouth specifically?
So I've tried to, get a report from them, because Steve Kaminsky was going to have their broadband person kind of get in touch with me. Never really did. They're relying basically on building out the fiber network and then just subbing it. And so that's probably what that unit is going to do. Just provide, a deadhead that somebody can tap into. But they're, with the exception of like Stewartstown or some other place, they're wiring that themselves. But
So they're not planning to wire Plymouth themselves like they did some other communities.
yeah, or if it is, it's like in the long term. They're focusing on very much underserved areas. So, and then, there's like all this money floating around, and there's Bristol build out theirs, and now we're going to have countywide plan, and it's going to essentially be built out, the whole network, and it's going to deadhead at the town halls in all 27 towns in Grafton County. So no, it's something like 34. I'm looking to you.
I don't know the number.
So there will be a deadhead in the town halls of all those places, and that's based on grants that have already been made, and also future grants that are coming down the
So
pipe.
is that just backbone, or is that,
Backbone.
so no, without an intermediary, no ability to connect into it?
Well, it'll be deadheaded at the town hall, so, I mean, you'll have the ability to, connect to it. I don't know
Somebody will have
exactly
to build
where.
the infrastructure.
Yeah.
But somebody would have to make that connection between point A and point B,
Right,
even within this building.
yep. So,
Interesting.
I haven't heard back from at least Electric Cooperative, though, to see what they actually are planning to do. But if Fidium beats them to the mark, they'll be like rolling out, broadband.
Yeah, I'll take it for, whoever will sell it to me.
Yeah, exactly.
Me too.
Well, we had that discussion this morning about the cable company, and it's kind of like, a large project that was like very, lucrative and helpful, but now people are just like, attaching to their, cable, not cable company, but, ISP and just streaming. So everything that is currently running on cable is going to be like,
Except for the cable company is also the internet service for most people.
true.
Yeah, it
Or
certainly is for me.
temporarily, at least.
Well, there's no other viable alternative.
Right, unless you want to, you can actually go tap into satellites too. In fact, SpaceX has got like thousands of satellites that are creeping around now and
Yeah, that's
really
We
good.
haven't seen
really
how
good
that
throughput,
actually is
though.
panning out yet.
right, for sure.
The engineer from New Hampshire Electric Co-op was named Gary LeMay, and he's in charge of building this network.
Actually, that's who was supposed to be contacting me. It was like a
He's
couple
the
months
guy.
ago.
He came from public service Eversource. I guess he worked for public service then, Eversource. Now he's here.
Yep.
Seems to really have a handle on things.
Well, let's hope so.
Yeah.
Anything else from Lakes Region Planning? Good.
No.
Ted, anything from Parks and Rec?
They have not met since we last met.
Can I just update everyone? We're not in hand, but we have about 8,000 for Luke Bisson at this time. So I'll be meeting with the parents to talk about some ideas that might involve activity. Some people have talked about benches and that kind of thing, but I think we're looking for something more active since he was so active. So I don't know, that could hit that 10,000 mark, so just something to give you guys the heads up on.
Okay.
And then the last thing is, I just wanted to mention, Robert, to be getting a PO your way. We had 7,000 left of the bond, and 4,000 is what the electrical on the common is gonna come in from Mort. So I don't know if that 3,000 you wanna use towards the steps or anything else, but we will not have a need for that difference of 3,000.
It's good news.
Yeah.
Nothing from parking without Mary Ann. Economic Development. Energy Commission, Bill?
I've spoken with Grace regarding the RFP that went out, and I guess the ball kind of is in our attorney's court, or at least we're trying to determine whether or not the awardee will have to be bonded. And it's kind of like odd for the fact that it's the RFP is basically to acquire a company that can provide research onto, size, location, basically kind of describing the whole project. And then the build-out will occur after funding is found or it has to go through a warrant. And so the actual first assessment by the companies is primarily to determine what the project might be.
It's like a plan. It's not actual infrastructure.
But I think their intent is to roll it into, an award. And, the conversation I had with Grace was her concern about bonding and whether or not that, it should be like that level. And I'm thinking, if the company's going to be, actually doing the project, yeah, we want to make sure that they're bonded. So that might be maybe a hurdle that some of these companies may not have, made yet. So regardless, I think, the town's got to protect themselves, so.
We did get a response back from the attorney, and it was identified to us that any project that's over 125,000 a municipal project should be bonded,
Okay,
or needs to be bonded.
right.
A little, so, but we're trying to come up with the actual wording for RFPs and RFQs. And June was looking at it last week. I know she finished her review. I just haven't gotten back to it yet. But John Radigan has made a recommendation, along with our insurance company.
Right.
So we use them both.
So that's going to be further discussed at a meeting, I think, which is going to be Thursday. There's a subcommittee that's going to look at the RFP and discuss further steps.
The actual procedure has not been, or policy has not been approved by the selectmen yet. So that needs to be brought to the selectmen for their approval. But we could, you could tell them, any project over 125,000 has to be bonded.
Right. Okay. And just a brief mention, we're having a PERLAC meeting tomorrow night. Thank you, Neil, for putting that down. And it's going to be 6:30 to 8:30 in the library, and it's probably the last time it's going to be in the not the library. 6:30 is going to move to 7 to 9, which I can't stand.
Wait a minute.
What?
6:30 or 7?
Okay, right now it's 6:30 for tomorrow night.
Yeah.
And then I'm stepping down from the chair position. Lisa offered to continue the taking minutes, and her deal is she wants, if we want to have her continue, we're going to change the meeting to 7 to 9.
But not tomorrow night.
Not tomorrow night.
Okay.
It's still my call, so.
And you want to give that up?
What's the what?
I said, and you want to give that up?
I
It's
do.
got too many irons in the
Yeah,
fire.
I'm giving up things.
Yep.
Don't tell Transport Central, I'm only kidding.
You're going to stay on, though.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
You just aren't going to be chair.
Well, yeah, at that point, yeah, it's just, whether I reapply, which I think my application's up in another couple of years, so. It's a great, committee.
Anything else from Energy?
That's pretty much it.
Anything from Advisory Budget Committee?
Yeah, both Mike and Mark are setting up meetings with department heads over the next couple of months. I guess they've already got time with Tom and Alex
Yep, on the
So-
29th.
on the 29th.
Yep.
I pulled that email up just so I couldn't screw it up. So, the good news is that they're starting kind of looking at departments a little bit and talking a little early.
Yep, that's good. Especially as we approach the end of a budget season, it's good.
Right.
Plymouth Village Sewer Water Department Town Infrastructure Committee, Neil.
I don't know if it's me or I haven't been, I don't think I've been getting email notices.
Probably not you.
Water and sewer.
It's, yeah.
Yeah,
Theoretically, the meetings are on the bulletin board or something like that outside the town office.
okay. I'm just getting
Right
going,
by.
Yeah.
I just want to get in the loop here.
I'll ask Don to put you on his email list.
Okay. And economic development, too.
Well, that one's not even moving.
Yep.
Yeah.
You'd have to call a meeting for that one to meet.
Right.
Any other committee updates, anything? No? Public comments?
Frank Miller. My comment is about the unnamed way where the skateboard park is. That way has literally been unnamed for over 125 years. If there's an emergency issue at that park, the 911 call would be, we're somewhere on unnamed way with no number. So I think the town needs to look at coming up with a name, and then the fire chief can determine a number. Second, that unnamed way connects to the intersection of Railroad Street, which is where the old Napa store the road that comes down, and 5 Points. And that intersection represents the best potential place to cross the railroad tracks to Green Street. Now, this has been part of our, I was on a master plan on the planning board in '83, and the committees had determined that the Green Street represented a second Main Street and a place to divert traffic flow should something happen on Main Street and or the interstate where they had to close down and defer all the traffic to town. And we don't want them to have to go through Parker in the residential zone. That would be a very good place. Up until recently, when the town acquired the ownership of Unnamed Way, then that represents the area. And I don't know, we've had several meetings here in the last 2 or 3 years about getting a lot line adjustment between the two owners. I think it's Berman and Eric Burchard that owns a piece of that intersection that would allow the town, through ownership, to apply to the state to place a crossing there. It's right at the gate of water and sewer, and it represents the safest, economical place to cross without taking any buildings. It would provide a flow capability, and also that whole intersection of Unnamed Way and all that area needs a safety review, because we're basically having kids walk down the side of Route 3 with no sidewalk, no guardrail. Obviously, the way it comes out onto Route 3 is not safe and it's not up to standards. So this has been in reports. I was on the master plan committee. I was on a Main Street program. I was part of the Green Street, which I've got copies of that report. And every 10 years, we put it out there and we say, yeah, we need to do this. And it keeps getting deferred. I think for economic development, we really need to focus on that one area, because without the infrastructure of the roads that are properly laid out and connected, forget trying to get businesses in, because our parking system is connected to the ways, and the utilization of the elements that we have there aren't in a condition of safety that we expect. So I don't know what the status was this last meeting with the owners about receiving that setback so that the town had ownership of the intersection that would allow an engineered crossing. So that was, one of the things we keep deferring, and I don't know where this stormwater drainage plan is going to be cutting through that, and that's a total separate item, but I think the town
I think it
needs.
is related, though, Frank, because there is like a drainage pond that's going in
Right.
in that area as part of the Main Street project.
So I think the biggest thing is getting a name to that way, and then looking at pre-planning a safe crossing. The state is interested in it because the State Heritage Trail ends at Plymouth, and the reason it can't continue is there's no way to cross. They were hoping for a crossing at that way. So I went down to the State Transportation Railroad Division as a citizen, and so I had no authority to act. I just wanted to see what kind of paperwork was necessary to what we needed to do to get approval to make a crossing. And they said, since I didn't own anything, I couldn't do anything. I said, that's fine. So once the town gets ownership of that intersection, then the town, as an abutter to the railroad track, would have the authority to talk to the people in Concord about doing that. And that was on a 95 Green Street plan. And the other railroad track crossing that's out of date and out of code is right by the senior citizen, which was supposed to have been upgraded also. So as a matter of economic development and public safety, I think that element needs to be looked at. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Frank.
I agree with everything Frank said. I think that's an important area for us to keep working on. I don't know what the next step is, though.
Want me to have a conversation with June about it?
Yeah, I mean, it's always hard to know. Is it good timing with everything happening with South Main Street, or is it bad timing with everything happening with South Main Street? But at least from my perspective, one voice on the board, I think it's still really important for us to keep working that particular space.
Yep.
For all the reasons Frank listed. Any other public comments?
I have a personal comment.
Is our public visiting us because of a school assignment? Thank you for sitting through a very long meeting. Yes, personal comment?
I want to say thank you to all the people in town hall that sent me a wonderful card. And you know, I always celebrate Earth Day on my birthday. But you know, I don't know how many people think about it, but your birthday is really the most important day in your life. It really means a lot, and you should remember that. And when people do remember that, it's really heartwarming.
Good, thank you for coming back.
I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, you just keep having birthdays, Neil.
That's right. That's right.
We all aspire to. With that,
Do you need something signed?
Yeah, I do, yeah. It's just like the confirmation that was like here.
yeah, well, let us do that for you. Before we go into non-public and
Kick you out.
It's just like a blank paper, so I'm not sure.
oh,
Oh, the chair.
I'll just put my signature on it, and you can write anything you want.
She was here.
He's very trusting.
I am. Yep.
Here, check
I know where you go to school, so it's fine.
Make sure you take his name down.
Right. You can't, yeah.
You're welcome.
So I'm supposed to like schedule like just like an interview thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like I just like ask you like basically.
Let me put my email address on there too.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
What class are you in?
I am in civics honors for the blank. Yeah, so like thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Just as a point of information, I have copies, other additional copies of the Green Street plan from '95, and it's very informative because it
Oh,
has
that would be good.
executive brief as to the intent and purpose, and I think it would be helpful, so I can.
Didn't we have another plan 3 years ago?
It was
4
in
years ago?
2001. There was a South Main Street Economic Development that was going to address all of that.
I remember seeing when I attended one of the early meetings while running for select board, I remember something sitting on an easel in this room that showed
I think
an
that
alternative
was-
layout on South
That
Main
was
Street.
his plan, or that plan that was pushed
Oh,
out
it
in
just
95,
happened to
yeah.
be sort of
Yeah.
I have
Back in
copies of all this over in my office, which I'm doing, research on Plymouth. So my program's all in the name of Plymouth, so I have stuff back to 1900. I have the drawing of Main Street back from 1900. So I have a lot of
Wow.
reports and studies that I've done in the last 40 years, and my focus has been downtown. So, that's the kind of stuff that I can help with orderly look-see of how we move forward. I know this right now is this water and sewer and a stormwater drainage update, and there's enough on the plate of Highway Department in the town, but we need to maybe prioritize next year or something.
Yeah, because it's the sort of thing that starts to make improvements
But
for decades.
I invite the selectmen, come up individually to my office. I've got maps, drawings, and all this, a lot of stuff that I keep track of. So, thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Frank. And
I'll
now,
make a motion to go into non-public for, according to RSA 91-A:3, comma, A, personnel.
And
And E.
negotiations. That doesn't have a letter.
And and F.
F.
What's that?
Second.
N.
We had a
Moved
second.
and seconded.
any discussion? No, there's no discussion on that. Ted,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
Neil,
Aye.
and me, aye.